Hi guys, and welcome back to my build of the 5-footer Millennium Falcon. Today I thought I would go through the process of just how I detail a section with the armor plating, the marking out and detailing and whatnot. This section is the rear upper starboard Jag Panther pit. We call it the Jag Panther pit because the main component of this pit is the Bandai 1/48th Jag Panther upper hull, and that makes up most of this detail plate, which will go into this access pit. So I'm very much old school in how I approach my building. I use cardboard a lot to template and to find out positions of things before I commit myself to cutting styrene. Cardboard is cheap, styrene not so much cheap. So yeah, if I can save on material and costs, I will. As I said, very much old school. My process here, a pit needs to be cut out of here, and that pit is that shape. But the problem is that pit underlies styrene plating. The plating overhangs it, so you have to find out where is that pit actually cut before you commit yourself to gluing down styrene overhanging plates. So as I mentioned, I think in the last video, I said that I have a plug to find dead center for radial lines. So from center, I can run this very crude compass, which has really worked great for me so far. Looks like it's got woodworm through it, but yeah, I'm really happy with how that's gone. So that was a low cost saving on that little compass. But that compass gives me the radial lines. So all these radial lines. But they're not just all willy-nilly placed. They all worked out from hundreds of reference photos. So when I'm doing a section like this, I have my computer on and I'm looking at around 20 photos all opened, and I'm looking down, in, back, everywhere to ascertain where the panel line, where the plating goes, where the panel lines go, where these lines go, where they meet up to the gun turret. It's such a process to match what ILM did, but in the end it's just so worthwhile seeing it all come together. But reference is the key to find out exactly where everything sits. But I will say that nothing on the 5-footer model is true. I mean, in the way that no lines are given, as in being straight. So like this one here is not quite straight to this one. This one goes off at a slight angle. This one here heads off pretty much to the corner of the gun turret up there. Don't know if you can see that, but it does. But yeah, nothing is clean, what I call clean. It's all as if the ILM modelers made all the panels different, as if they were all cobbled together, welded differently together to give it that real hunk of junk feel to the ship. You can see the love in it. It's just amazing, the detail in it. So my process for finding all the lines is I've already had this walkway here, and there's all this chipping along here, and I'll go through that in a minute on how I do that chipping. But the radial lines match where they come out from the chipping, the lines there, and they radiate out into the engine deck. But luckily all these radial lines were actually were centered, which is really handy on this section. A lot of the sections are not, some go off that way and others down, and it's a real nightmare. So yeah, but this one is really nice to work on. So yeah, I use cardboard a lot, but I place I have other cardboard panels that I place on there, like rough ones of these, that I place there and mark out all the little chips and where they go on the plating. That will I will make out of these later on, and all that will give me the position of this pit. So through all that work, I've now worked out where this actually sits right there, and it's marked out there, so all this will come off and I will draw that pit, and that shape will be cut out through the ABS dome, and that Jag Panther pit, the detail pit, will be cut into a triangular shape, and it should fit through that gap. If it doesn't, well, I'm pretty sure it will, but if it doesn't, I can always take this off, these detail parts, and detail it inside the pit when there's a shelf in there similar to this, so all would not be lost. But I'm pretty confident that that pit will fit in there. So yeah, everything is true to the original miniature. Every notch, all these little nibbles, each size of the panel, it's all measured off hundreds of photos to get it as accurate as I possibly can. And this section is going really well, as it is to the others. But yeah, as you can see, I'm very much old school in working out how I get positions and do things before I commit myself to styrene. So I mentioned all these notches before. A lot of guys ask, how do I get all these little notches? Well, there's a tool that ILM used, and it's called a nibbler, and it's this metal working tool. It's used in the panel beating industry to nibble out thin sheet metal. It takes a little nibble out of each notch, or makes a notch. Yeah, we call them nibble or notches or whatever, but ILM used it to notch out all their styrene panels, on not only on this model but also on quite a few other Star Wars models, I believe. The Blockade Runner, the Escape Pod, to name but a two. So what it does, it pretty much takes, you line it up, can do that, yeah. It takes a little nibble out of each, when you press it in, takes a little nibble, and the nibbler ejects each piece. A lot of notches on the model were double cuts, some were angled, just like that. There's literally thousands of notches on this thing, but very enjoyable. It's quite therapeutic to do. So yeah. And by the way, some of these little leftover notches, they were used as detailing on the Falcon as well. So like they might have glued a few there like that, but yeah. Yeah, so I hope that gives an insight into my process on how I do a section. I think in the next video I'll flip this model over and do a walk around of it. It's pretty much complete on the underside, and then I'll go through the big underside pits with you guys, the detailing and just the process of how I did that. So again, thanks guys for watching, and catch you soon. Cheers.